Well, good evening. I'm Dustin Seaton, the Gifted and Talented Specialist at the Northwest Arkansas Education Service Cooperative and president of Arkansans for Gifted and Talented Education, or better known as AGIT. AGIT is an organization that encourages the development and implementation of educational programs like tonight, as well as initiatives throughout the state, especially when it comes to serving and identifying the gifted and talented youth of Arkansas. So you can check out our new website for information about future webinars at giftedarkansas.org, or you can like and follow us on Facebook or Twitter. Part of being an AGIT member is access to webinars like the one tonight, sponsored by our enrichment committee that we just created. So I'm going to turn it over to our new chair of the enrichment committee, Jennifer Thomas, to introduce tonight's presentation.
Thank you, Dustin. Okay, so tonight's presentation is entitled Getting to Know Your GT Students, a Social and Emotional Wellness Webinar. Our presenter is Jennifer Malugen, a GT facilitator at the Tyson School of Innovation in the Springdale School District. She will discuss a variety of surveys, questionnaires, quizzes, and other things that would be great to administer to students in order to better understand what makes them tick. As we know, in the time of COVID, students are confused, scared, and anxious. We must find ways to provide a safety net for our students while addressing some of their most pressing needs. Mrs. Malugen will also suggest some great children's books and other helpful resources to help get students thinking and talking, which we all know that helps the classroom go a little smoother. I encourage you to sit back and listen from wherever you are, but feel comfortable using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen to ask questions to our presenter. The chat box is also available, but mainly for sharing resources, links, and making comments. Don't worry if you have to leave, we are recording and we'll have this video posted on our website, giftedarkansas.org. With that being said, I'm proud to turn this over to our presenter and fellow AGIT member, Ms. Jennifer Malugen.
Hi, thank you so much. You've got a great name, Jennifer.
Yes, Jennifer is a wonderful name.
Hi, I just want to welcome you guys all to this session, and I'm thrilled to be here with you tonight to share a few of the resources that I am currently utilizing in my endeavor at the Virtual Innovation Academy at Tyson School of Innovation in Springdale. This is probably the million-dollar question. Where should we begin? So many of us feel as if we're in our first year of teaching, because there are so many changes. I have to admit, I'm a little excited about the potential for change. I think that we have an opportunity to truly reach students through avenues that have never been explored. So everybody take a deep breath, give yourself grace, and by all means, be ready to pivot. This is exactly what we must all do each and every day. When Friday the 13th occurred in March, none of us were prepared for what was to come. It was definitely a major pivot in all things education. We were forced to provide AMI lessons to students who may or may not have had technology, resources, supplies, etc. We were really in survival mode. And I felt like this was the perfect time to honor one of my favorite shows, Friends. And I think this is a perfect example of what we all have gone through this past few months.
Just follow my lead. Okay.
Sorry, I'm trying to get it to enlarge. There we go.
Come on, Julie. All right, okay. Here we go. All right, ready? Turn. Okay. Turn. Turn. We can turn anymore. Oh yeah, well, come on, up. Yes. Here we go. Pivot. Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Okay, I don't think it's going to pivot anymore. You think? All right, let's bring it back down and try again. Oh. Yeah, I think it's really stuck. That didn't work.
I know, me neither. I mean, you had a sketch.
What did you mean when you said pivot?
All right, so if you're like me, you could definitely relate to the feeling that we were asked to monitor and adjust in this pandemic to a greater degree than normal. The good news is we are all in this together, and with the support of one another, we will be able to move gifted education to greater heights. When AMI days began, this was my first thought. I've got to start building this SEL library for reference and to use in preparing my lessons. I needed to find ways to make sure my students' needs were being met. I knew I was worried, I was scared and confused. I couldn't imagine what my students were feeling. My oldest granddaughter is 8 years old, and this pandemic really hit her hard. She's a very emotional child and always has been. And I watched her go through so many roller coaster-like emotional rides. And I wanted to make sure if I did nothing else, I listened to each of my students and provided them with daily SEL mini lessons or shorts I utilized throughout this pandemic. And I used the book, the Gifted Kids Workbook, as a guide to create a wide variety of these lessons. These are just a few of the social emotional professional books that I have in my library. I have written a number of grants and spent a lot of my own money, as well as our leader at Springdale Public Schools, Tim Smithy, has been very gracious in providing us with a budget, and so I was able to purchase some of them through that also. But each of these have aided me and helped me to better address the needs of our gifted students. Just to help you, I have hyperlinked each of these books into to Amazon so that you can purchase them if you would like, and you will be getting a link to the slideshow at the end. These are a few of the books that I have in my children's library for social emotional needs, and I utilize these with my students. And these books on the top shelf are actually written more in a journal format, and they provide a plethora of avenues to explore how my students are feeling. Each of the other books address different social emotional needs, but one thing I've created for this year is a Bitmoji SEL room. And this is it. And in my actual classroom, each of the different items are hyperlinked, and I have activities, videos, lessons, and a book that they will be able to access, and that SEL book will be changed monthly to provide a different area of discussion so that we can have that during our Zoom. This is an example of a video I shared with my students in the spring. And this was one of the SEL shorts, and it was a great way to connect and challenge my students. I used the Gifted Kids Workbook for this one. Whoops, go back just a second, sorry. And you can hear, and I'm not going to play the whole thing, but this is just an example of how I utilize that.
Welcome back to day 17 of GTAMI. We're going to continue with our study of A Day in the Life of a GT Kid. And the lesson that we're going to talk about today is how we can feed and focus our intense intellect. Many kids that are gifted have very curious minds. They think big thoughts and ask big questions. This intellectual intensity can be very helpful, but it can also be unhelpful. With practice, we can learn to choose when to focus and when to let our curiosity guide us. Have you ever had trouble shutting off your mind? I don't know about you, but when I go to bed at night, I cannot stop thinking. And I'll think about things I need to do, or things I should have done, or how can I make things better, or what can I do tomorrow to make the kids enjoy this more, or it goes on and on. And it's just literally can be mind-boggling, and it's hard to shut all of that off. Well, have you ever been so focused on learning more about something that the rest of the world feels boring or fades away? Have you had an adult grow frustrated with your repeated questions? If you have, chances are you've got intellectual intensity. Kids with intellectual intensity have super curious minds. The thoughts and questions don't ever seem to stop. Most often, kids with intellectual intensity want or need to dive deeply into the subject they are interested in, and they won't want to shift their focus until they've had all of their questions answered. They also tend to have great memories and understand things quickly. Have you ever started on a task and then your teacher says, okay, let's move on, and you're just like, no, I want to finish this. I want to look into this more. That is intellectual intensity. Intellectual intensity can be awesome. It helps you learn a lot and helps you be advanced and inventive in your work, in your hobbies.
So that was an example, and it goes on a little bit longer, but each of the different things, it's the for you to know section, and that's what I utilized. And if you get one of the workbooks, you will see that that's like explained completely in there. This is like an example of the activities for the first lesson. If you see the for you to know, I basically would read through a lot of this and then put it into my own words, add some things as I was going. But I wanted the kids to understand the main idea of the activity, which was you are not an alien, but you are different. And so then you'd go through that. The prompt that's the green arrow is pointing at was used either to lead a discussion during our Zoom, or they were asked to answer it in a journal or a Flipgrid video format. I didn't use all of the activities, but the questions in the cloud on here were often used to drive discussions during our Zoom meetings also. And they also provided just great talking points. And the topic in the heart was also used more for like further reflection, for their journal writing or whatever. I didn't necessarily copy and send them all of these different pages. I also shared books with the kids, and this was an example of one of the books that I shared, and I'll play it for just a few minutes. Let me turn it up a little bit.
Welcome back, guys. We're going to read a story today entitled A Little Spot of Confidence, a story about believing in yourself, written and illustrated by Miss Diane Halver. Hi, I'm a confidence spot. I see you have some confidence spots already. Your confidence spot is there to help you believe in yourself. Your confidence spot can usually be found on your shoulder or by your side. When it's on your shoulder, it's close to your ear, so it can whisper words of encouragement. Its nickname can be inner voice. When your confidence spot is by your side, it will try and hold your hand to let you know you're not alone. It will give you the strength to keep going. Unlike some other spots of emotion, you want your confidence spot to.
So that was just an example of one of the books that I had read. And I would always try to find some sort of a social emotional topic that we were kind of talking about, or it would maybe go along with the lesson that I was going over with them in the Gifted Kids Workbook. I used a green screen when I recorded that and the Do Ink app to create my video, and my students loved hearing the children's books, and I absolutely love reading them. And it is a great way to help them understand how they might be feeling. One thing that I am sharing with my students this year is videos that will help them deal with their social emotional needs. My students will be asked to send me an emoji on, I will have this up in my room, and it's like, how are you feeling, in my virtual room. There are videos like this one actually helps kids to understand how they lose control of their emotions. And I'm not going to show you the whole video, but I'll show you for a few minutes of it, a few seconds actually.
Kids want to know. Imagine that you really want to play soccer at lunchtime, but when the bell rings, you can't find your shoes. When you finally get out to the field, the teams have been picked and it's too late for you to play. Maybe you got so mad that this small problem became a big problem in an instant. When we lose control of our emotions like this, we can call it flipping your lid, kind of like the way a pot might do if it was too full and too hot. A little while later, after you've cooled down, you might even feel sad when you realize that when you had a big reaction to a little problem, you could have hurt someone's feelings. What if I told you that this happens to everyone? Your parents, friends, teachers, and everyone else you know can flip their lid.
So I think that's a really good video for them to be able to connect and see that we all go through those problems. Also on here, you're going to see there's a video that goes along with time, and it helps them to understand when they run out of time and how they utilize their time. Like I was saying, I'm going to have this posted, and then I'm going to ask them to send me an emoji. And I went past this, sorry. I'm going to ask them to send me an emoji telling me how they're feeling that day, because I'm not going to be seeing them face to face, except for our weekly Zoom. So it's going to have to be one of those deals where they're communicating with me and I'm communicating with them through a different method. There's also a video that's attached to the rainbow, where it's the rainbow breathing, and it helps them to build those different things. And then the What Do You Do With the Problem was the book that we're going to be discussing this month. And so that was going to be the one that I wanted them to have in that room. Our class motto this year will be growing in grace and grit. I couldn't think of a better way to say it. We'll have to show a lot of grace with one another and continue to grow our grit. I think it's extremely important for the students to know I'm going to make mistakes just like they will. But as long as we fall forward, we will all be growing. This spring and summer, I reread The Innovator's Mindset and Innovate Inside the Box by George Couros. And he is such an inspiring author and speaks to so many things we need to be thinking about as GT facilitators. And I highly recommend those if you have not read those books. Giftedness is a collection of talents and traits affecting all aspects of a person, from cognition to personality to social emotional development. We must always look at the whole child. Too often, students are stuck in specific categories that can limit their potential. This book we're going to be talking about over the next few slides, I'm Not Just Gifted, is definitely one I would highly, highly recommend for you to each purchase. With recent advances in neuroscience, research has shown that giftedness is influenced by the environment and the development of identity. We have to help our students understand what influences their behavior in order to ensure they are placing themselves within those correct environments. Gifted children have unique social and emotional traits that influence their life experiences. These characteristics can be shaped and influenced by the support that we offer them. If we do not provide this support, they will get it somewhere else. We need to be a part of their emotional support system. Sorry. Drawing on the work of researchers over the past 2 decades highlights several specific emotional traits that most influence a gifted child's life. And these are the traits: high performance standards, internal motivation, emotional intensity, empathy, moral maturity, self-actualization, and resilience. Each of these are explained in detail within the book, but I didn't want to go through all of that specifically with y'all tonight. In order for gifted kids to truly benefit from their education and develop personal excellence, they must be given access to an enriching curriculum, both for academics and affective skill development. I come from the mindset that integration of subjects is key. I think we should include affective components in all parts of our curriculum. Creating stimulating affective curriculum that encompasses the development of emotional intelligence and talent development can help to bridge this need. We've got to see this for our kids. Research examining the link between affective skill development and academic achievement for all students confirms something most educators have felt: emotional intelligence, even more than cognitive ability, influences academic performance. Let me say that one more time. Emotional intelligence, even more than cognitive ability, influences academic performance. Our students need to feel an emotional connection in order to take ownership of their learning. Research related to gifted education highlights an even more significant need for gifted individuals to receive support for their social and emotional development. We can't expect the students to just get it on their own. We must provide scaffolding to help guide their understanding. Not only should gifted kids be given opportunities to deepen their study of various academic topics, but they should be allowed and encouraged to think about their feelings related to that content. They should link the information to their interests and develop actionable responses. We must remember to incorporate social emotional needs into all content. Include a journal, a poll, a Flipgrid, or anything that gets them to think about how it makes them feel. According to Peterson, proactive focuses on developing the skills necessary to facilitate personal growth and development. Reactive strategies happen in response to problems that interfere with learning. Integrative practices focus on attending to affective components of instruction and activities. We must attempt to address the social and emotional learning needs through proactive and integrative strategies. However, there will be times we must use reactive strategies. We just need to make sure we cover it one way or another. Self-assessment refers to the understanding of aptitude, interest, and general personality traits. Standard measures as well as self-evaluation should be included. This will help to create meaning in one's life. Lessons that include interest and talent development to this greater concept of meaning should begin at a young age in order to have the greatest impact. Embedding emotional content into typical classroom settings could be as easy as using stories to interpret emotional reactions from characters, as well as motivation. Find great trade books, such as What Do You Do with the Problem?, to lead to such great discussions. If you're working with 4th through 7th grade, I would highly recommend this book. It has lessons set up in units, focusing on a specific aspect in social emotional development. The index of lessons tells you the social emotional competency, NAGC standards, and the Common Core State standards that it will address. So this book is just a wealth of information. This question, when you hear the word gifted, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Starts the first chapter of When the Gifted Kids Don't Have All the Answers. I have used it since its original publication. It addresses topics in a way that can be easily shared with students. We always begin the year with a survey or questionnaire to help us to gather new and interesting information about one another. This book includes some great examples. I usually modify them to fit the needs of my students, but we always discuss the myths and misconceptions about giftedness. This always sparks some great conversations. We also always discuss the 8 great gripes of gifted kids. Many of these lead to discussions about how to make a change in the world. These are lessons that really get the kids talking about their feelings and the feelings of others. This book is the one that I was referring to. No, it was like this book. It's the same format. But this book is also great to use as a conversation starter. It's divided into 6 sections with 4 to 8 activities per section. The sections are mindfulness, understanding your feelings, working with your feelings, creating your skills toolbox, taking your tools on the road, and values and goals. Each activity has a for you to know section, just like the other one that I referred to earlier. And it also would give you that opportunity to create those SEL shorts like I was talking about before. You can also use those sections in a variety of ways. Sometimes I will actually use the questions posed just as journal activities, or other times they may be a Flipgrid assignment where I ask them to record their feelings. These workbooks, this one, like Don't Let Your Emotions Run Your Life for Kids, are phenomenal. I mean, they are really great, and they're wonderful with the younger kids also. I've used these with all the way down through 2nd grade, and they've been wonderful. And they're a great way to help you keep that social emotional pulse of your class. And I'm going to have things like this to really help me with my virtual students. This book is one that I have actually am really excited about because I've not had the chance to use it yet this year. But it is cognitive behavioral therapy is the type of interventions that are available within this. It can help kids to overcome anxiety symptoms. And I don't know about y'all, but I need this just as much as they do. I never dreamed that, or guess I should say I've never had a nightmare about living through a pandemic. And anxiety is real, and it must be addressed. Many of our students are emotionally intense, so they really need ways and help with learning to cope with this. This workbook will do just that. It will help them to develop strategies and be able to get through some of those situations that maybe they wouldn't know how to get through on their own. I will be using these lessons for some little shorts and SEL shorts also, and it will work great even with my K through 3 students, but can also be used with the older students. But the topics are like, what is anxiety anyway? Or what can you do about anxiety? So all of those are types of things that I think are very, very important. So I would recommend that book also. I've witnessed this too often. Students will have so many ideas that they go into overload. If you read this whole little quote, it says their affective attributes increase the school difficulties, causing perfectionism and a refusal to take academic risks. When teachers assign tasks that appear too open-ended or flexible to the gifted child, she may shut down completely, frustrated that she can't figure out precisely what the teacher is asking for in that assignment. And I know if you are like me, if you watch the kids, you've seen this on their faces. You can see the struggle. You can really pinpoint what they need to do. They have problems with that because they are wanting to do so many things, and most of the time they're really wanting to make everybody happy, and they're trying to be that teacher pleaser also. So it's hard for them to really pinpoint what they need to do. So instead, they look like they're refusing to complete an assignment, when actually We just need to advocate for them. We need to help everybody understand that their affective needs are causing them to have some issues here. And it's vital that educators have a full understanding of the nature of giftedness when working with these particular students. This understanding provides the framework necessary to enact a teaching philosophy that enables the child to not only acquire the knowledge needed to be successful in that class, but the skills needed to generalize that knowledge and mature it into a more fulfilled human experience. Emotional intensity is not only a matter of mood swings. This intensity also can be demonstrated in physical ways. Symptoms including heart palpitations, blushing, sensory sensitivity to the environment, constant annoyance, a feel of their socks or tags in their shirts are all related to this emotional intensity. Headaches, nausea, especially in response to school or peer concerns, timed tests, and pressures to perform, also find their root cause in emotional aspects of being a gifted child. These children will often relive the feelings of significant moments in their lives, such as a move or the loss of a pet, over and over again. Strong attachments to people and things coupled with their strong affective memory often can make transitions very difficult. According to the text, in addition to the emotional aspects of intensity already described, the overexcitability of their imagination and sensory input can put them at odds with their environment, resulting in significant emotional reactions. Things as simple as the bells indicating the end of the lunch period at school, or the scratchy feel of a tag in their clothing can be enough to send the gifted kid into an emotional tailspin. This book will help you to go through some examples of exact things that have happened to students, and it's definitely a resource to help you understand the kids, but also share some of these experiences with your students. Because then when they see other kids have gone through some of these intensities, it helps them to understand what they are actually going through. This text is also by Dr. Delisle, and it is, I loved this whole statement, so I'm going to read this to you. But when you write your dreams, do so in pencil. If the dreams stay true and focused, you can still read them in the rich, dark script in which they were written. However, if you need to change your dreams or alter them entirely, it is much easier to erase pencil than pen, allowing you to move on to a different dream with a clean, unencumbered slate. Throughout chapter 8, he describes this very statement, and he talks about how his son had dreams of attending the University of Colorado as a young child. Well, when the time came, his son was accepted, and off he went to college. He only attended there for 1 year because it wasn't what he had dreamed it would be. The next year, he transferred to a different college in Boston to discover it was actually more than he could ever have dreamed. I think it's important that we share stories like this with our students. They need to know that dreams can be changed. This story can be related to so many decisions that we make in our lives. Chapter 6 in the text on the social and emotional lives of gifted children discusses competing with myths about the social and emotional development of our gifted children. These actually need to be discussed in staff meetings across the United States and the world. This chapter is just one of the reasons I would recommend this book to help with addressing these needs. Because we must remember, nothing is more difficult than competing with a myth. Each chapter brings up a topic and then further discusses it and provides questions for discussion. If you look at these myths, gifted students should be with students their own age. Myth 2, gifted students should be in the same age, heterogeneous classes. Myth 3, gifted students should be perfectly well-rounded. Myth 4, being gifted is something you are just born with. Myth 5, everyone is an expert in giftedness. Myth 6, adults know what gifted students experience. All of those things, you've probably each heard these in a staff meeting. Not that we wanted to. This book, Being Emotionally Connected, Connection is not a luxury, it's a matter of survival, provides a wide variety of topics to explore. You'll find a lot of great information that will help you understand and share the important truth that we must be connected. This is why we must be aware of the emotional needs of our students to be able to truly connect with each and every one. Change takes time and practice, and patience and more practice. At times, you may want to give up, but you won't. Why not? Because you want better things to happen in your life. You want others to be proud of you. You want to be proud of yourself. This book is filled with great lessons that can be shared with your students. It includes vignettes and challenges to share with students within the first chapter. This statement was made: you are stronger than you think you are. You have what it takes to keep trying, even when the going gets tough. To quote Christopher Robin, you are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. We not only need to share that with our students, but we need to hear it too. We are in this together, and we will see great things come out in gifted education as a result. This is the link, the tiny URL to this presentation, and I actually talked faster than I meant to. But if you have any questions, Dustin, has anyone posed any questions at this time?
No, but in the chat, I posted that Google link too, because I couldn't get it from the tiny URL, but you'll also get this emailed to you tomorrow if you'd like to click each of those little Bitmoji books and stuff that Jennifer put into her presentation. Are there questions that y'all would like to ask specifically about any of the resources mentioned? You can put it in the chat or do in the Q&A function, or raise your hand if you want to go down to the participants section. There's an option to raise your hand, and we can unmute you to ask a question.
While we're waiting, I didn't include, and I will send you this title, but it's Mindfulness for Anxious Kids, and it also is in that workbook format. It's a great book to help the kids to deal with like being anxious and just trying to figure out how to make it through this crazy world that we're living in.
We had a question for you, Jennifer. Can you explain what your day looks like at the Don Tyson School of Innovation in Springdale? Please explain that you are totally virtual this year and what that looks like.
Yes, we are completely virtual. So, for example, today I completed working on my enrichment lessons that I will be sharing. I've actually put together I'm all about the Bitmoji classroom right now. It's kind of fun and it's a little bit addictive. But I went through and I created different things, links to books and lessons. So all of that has been set up, and that's going to be sent out. So I'll have a month's worth of enrichment for kinder, first and second. So I'm also going to be Zooming with their classes to make sure that the kids know my face and they know who I am. Then I work with I've got a few kids in second grade that have been identified. So I'm going to be working with some second graders, third graders, and fourth graders, and I'm working to develop their curriculum. We're working on making sure that they have a lot of voice and choice this year. We have sent out, thanks to my friend Jennifer Taunton, she had created an amazing survey, and so we actually use that at our VIA DTSOI school. And so we are able to send that out, and we were getting a lot of information from the kids. So it's just a matter of trying to put it all together. Their minds, of course, you know, I had everywhere. One of the questions was, what do you want to be when you grow up, or what's your dream job? And I had things on there from work at Starbucks to my granddaughter said she wanted to be an astrophysicist at NASA. So I was pretty excited to see that that was her response, although I wasn't surprised because she's talked about that for a long time. But there are a lot of different things on there, and I think that we're trying to make sure that we're addressing the needs of our students. And I'm going to be Zooming with all of my identified students on Thursday. We've already scheduled the time, and that's going to be our regular weekly time that I will be able to talk to them. So it's great. I'm getting to collaborate with my two of my GT co-workers, Amber Livingston and Joy Sawyer. So it's just going to be a great year.
All right, we had another really good question because we know resources and funds are limited, but if we were to purchase just one of the books that you recommended, is there one that really sticks out that would help us with social emotional learning?
What grade level?
That was Bonita Johnson.
Do you know what grade?
I'm going to see. She said 3rd to 5th.
3rd to 5th. I would probably recommend the one that I was talking about that was the workbook. It's actually the Gifted Kids Workbook, because that one goes really into all of the different, like the intensities and everything. If you were going to buy 2. So the other one would be the I'm Not Just Gifted book. So those 2 would be the 2 that I would definitely purchase first. But I do want to say that in the past, Donors Choose has had a lot of opportunities where you could get social emotional books. And especially with distance learning and all the different things that's going on, they've had a lot of the matching on there. So it's been a really good opportunity to try to get, and that's where I've actually gotten a lot of mine.
Thank you. Another great question. Do you have advice on how to help students that are extroverts during this time of virtual learning?
So like where they want to just talk out on the, I guess in the meetings and stuff and be like overly zealous, I guess.
Yeah.
I would probably just recommend, that you mute all students when they first come into a Zoom meeting, and then actually try to work through a way for them to be able to have like the chat box, or even have some other type of a journal that you could have interactive, where they could be even writing in that journal, and it could be like a Google shared document where other people could see what they're writing also and could be responding and stuff. And that might help to address some of that.
Yeah, we also had recommendations. My kids are now going virtual too, and they said what I thought was really nice is do play dates via Zoom, where it's not a whole class, but it's like just a small group of 2 or 3 other kids that are virtual, and you can ask the teacher to set that up, or as a GT teacher, set it up in small groups or do breakout via Zoom.
Exactly.
And just allow kids to talk unmoderated. And I thought that was a really good idea.
Well, and that's one thing that kids are starving for that. And you don't realize it. We took our grandkids to the park last weekend, and it was crazy because you could just see all that pent up, just wanting to talk to people and wanting to do, and it's just a weird time we live in.
Another question we had in the chat or in the Q&A box was, what are you doing with your identified 3-6 kids virtually?
We actually, today I was working on my Google Classroom for them. I have actually set up a series of, and I don't know if you guys know about this, but there's a wealth of free stuff on Facebook through that Bitmoji educator craze. I'll look it up and I'll send it to you in a second, Dustin, so you can send that out when you do. But there is a wealth of information that people have put together where they've created these libraries and they've created all these different cool classrooms that are free for our use. Of course, you don't want to, put them on there and try to sell them for something, because that's not right. It's not your work, it's theirs. But they did allow us to use them free of charge. And so I have created some classrooms for the kids to do research, like about one of the areas was space that a lot of the kids were very interested in. Another was about like different types of conflicts throughout history. And so I've got different wars, like where it's like Civil War for kids or different things, so they can go through and research. And right now, my first big project for them is going to let them just pick and choose from a variety of resources, and they're going to be doing a passion project. And then I'm going to have them doing presentations and being able to present it to the class so that they will be able to share their screen. And so that'll give them opportunities to, I guess, you know, have a different audience than they normally would have had, because they're going to school with different people than they've been going to school with. So they're not in class with all their same buddies.
Another question was, do you use workbooks with all your students, and what company do you order from?
These, no, I don't use necessarily a workbook. These are what I actually use more for, like the little short lessons. I use the for you to know, to build my little lesson, the little short lesson that I'm going to share with them. Then there's a section that's for you to do. And so I go through those. These actually are, I'm trying to remember the name of this company. I'm pretty sure I ordered most of them off of Amazon because I count them through the Harbinger Publications is the name of the company that had these, the instant help books. But a lot of them I have literally ordered off of Amazon when I got them through my Donors Choose grants and stuff. Dustin, you're muted.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Another question was, could you describe your schedule? What does it look like as a virtual GT teacher?
Well, actually, right now my schedule's crazy because we are still in what is called the onboarding phase of our Virtual Innovation Academy. This is the first year that we've had it, so we're all in a learning phase ourselves. So right now it's more about just making those contacts with our kids and getting everything set up. We did, you know, like I said, sent out that I guess we just did the inventory so that we can just find out more things about what their interests are so that we can build more curriculum to meet their needs and set it up where it's truly built completely around what our kids are interested in.
All right, I posted in the chat, Renee shared a link that will help create a Bitmoji classroom. So thank you, Renee, for sharing that. And I think we're caught up with all the questions.
Okay.
I will do one last plug. We do have 2 more webinars that are coming up that I think will be really interesting to our audience, because we've had a lot of questions about virtual learning. On Thursday, September 10th, so next Thursday at 7 o'clock, we have a webinar of students, GT students in their senior year that just finished Arkansas Governor School, representing a wide variety of perspectives around the state, but they're going to answer questions and talk about their GT experience, what we can do better to help GT students in Arkansas. So put that on your calendar if you haven't already for Thursday, September the 10th at 7, and a webinar hosted by Agate. And then we have a really good one as well by Patricia Hesse on GT going virtual. She's a GT teacher in Weiner, Arkansas through the Harrisburg School District, and she has a lot of great resources about things we can do with our virtual kids. So that will be on Monday, September 14th at 6 p.m. You can check those out on our website, our new website, giftedarkansas.org. But I want to thank Jennifer Malugen. Thank you for your presentation tonight. We found it very informative, and hopefully we can take these resources and ideas and strategies back to our kids and help them with their social emotional needs this school year. So thank you all for signing in and tuning in on a Tuesday night. Jennifer Thomas, do you have any last minute parting words?
Well, no, thank you. And we enjoyed it. And if you guys have any suggestions of what you would like to see for this year as far as different webinars, please place it in the chat and we will take those in consideration. That's
Great.
it.
Thank you all.
Thank you.